welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're new here. My name's Sarah, and today I want to talk to you guys about how I grew my Etsy from making about like $100 to $200 a month to $9K a month passively. If you enjoy this video and want to see more, I definitely recommend you subscribe and check out some of my other content. It's a lot of like design and art related content. And yeah, let's just get into the video. So firstly, I want to talk a bit about my shop. So I first started my Etsy shop in about August of 2020. Initially, I was just selling stickers that I was making on my Cricut. If you don't know what a Cricut is, it's just like a mini little die cutting machine. So I was doing that and it was going okay. I would make very max $80 a week. So in July of this year, 2021, I decided to start making digital prints. I started my Etsy shop with 6 digital prints, and initially they were getting like pretty average engagement, like similar to what the stickers were getting. And then in about September, my sales like completely started skyrocketing. So it took the algorithm a few months to actually pick them up. And now they're actually like on the top pages of, if you search like downloadable prints, things like that, they're just right up there on the top pages, which is really exciting. So if we have a look at my shop from July 1st to July 31st, which is kind of around the time I started selling my digital prints, I made $596 that month. And it's interesting to note, Etsy brought 68% of visits and I brought 32% of visits. So I think this is an important thing to note. 32% is a good chunk of the engagement. And I think my traffic is what from my other social media platforms is what initially gave my prints that boost, and then Etsy kind of started promoting it on their own. Because if you look at my current statistics, and for the past few months, Etsy typically brings in like 98-99% traffic, and I only bring in 1 or 2%. And then if we look from August 1st to August 31st, I made $9,708 that month, and that's passively because these are digital prints, so I don't have to do any work. Like, they purchase it, they download it, they print it themselves. It's no work whatsoever for me, and it's just completely passive money that comes into my account every week. This month, Etsy brought 93% of visits and I brought 7%. So essentially, Etsy was basically giving me all this traffic and boosting my prints. That month, I was barely promoting my prints or anything like that on social media. So that's just a bit of a rundown of how my sales started to increase, but I want to give you guys some tips as to how I made this all happen and how you guys can make this happen as well. Some tips that I think are quite unique. Yeah, will just really boost your sales. So I want to cover all the bases here, from setting up your shop to the actual listing to the actual products themselves, because I think all aspects of this process are extremely important to getting that engagement and that traffic that you're looking for, and at the end of the day, those sales. So step number 1 is to set up your shop. So one thing I learned was the best thing you can do is have as many listings in your shop as you possibly can when you initially start it, because this just allows you to get more traffic from different areas. And you also don't know what will perform well and what won't, so it's better to just give yourself more options. I think with Etsy, it's more quantity over quality to some extent. Obviously, you do want to be putting up quality products, but I think just filling your shop with lots of stuff is definitely beneficial and will get you more engagement. So when I started my shop, I think I had about 12 items, and I think now I have 25 items in my shop. So it's not a lot, but it is a substantial shop. And when you look at my shop, you can kind of see this cohesive style, and the shop looks well established and everything like that. So I would say if you could start with like between 10 to 15 listings, I think that's a really great start. The next step to starting your shop is to have a cohesive style. And this goes for not only on your Etsy, but across all your social media platforms, because it kind of helps to tell the bigger picture of who you are as an artist and what you're offering your customers. So with your style, it's important to have your banner, your like little user icon, even your copywriting, the mockups you're using should be a similar aesthetic. Everything should look very similar. So if you're shooting on bright, colorful backdrops, do that with all your listings. If you have some listings with bright, colorful backdrops and then some on this like earthy wood, it's just a bit disjointed. So in general, just keep everything really cohesive and keep a strong style, because people will be able to recognize your shop and it will just get you more sales in the long run. The next step in setting up your shop, if you can, I would promote your shop on your other social media platforms. This isn't a necessity, but I do think it can help to boost the traffic. I think what happened with my shop and why it initially got that boost and why it is now keeping that boost is around August, like early August, I posted a few reels to Instagram that got about, I think like 100, one got 100,000 views, one got 80,000 views. And so I was getting a lot of traffic to my Instagram at that time, and my Etsy is linked in my Instagram bio. And so I was getting a bit more traffic to my Etsy as a result of this. And I think that is what gave me the initial boost on my digital prints on Etsy. And then once Etsy picked up that I was getting slightly more sales, it then boosted to the top of the pages on Etsy. And now Etsy's doing all the work. They're bringing in 98% of traffic and I'm only bringing in 2%. But I think me posting those reels on Instagram gave me that initial boost. And now it's just, you know, growing and going crazy. So if you can promote your Etsy shop on other platforms, I would definitely recommend to do that because it may help with that initial boost. But I don't think it's necessary by any means. And I think Etsy will pick it up sometime or later once you start to get more sales if it's really cool, like a really cool product. I also will say in terms of like promoting your shop and things like that, I have used Etsy ads and I found no benefit to them like whatsoever. I wouldn't recommend that from the get-go, especially if you're selling cheap products. Like my prints are only about $7, my stickers are like $2 to $3. So financially it just doesn't make sense to pay all this money on ads just to get a few sales from small items. Like quite expensive item, maybe that would make sense, but for these small little products that you're selling that you're just generating passive income on, I personally wouldn't recommend using ads, at least initially, but it is good to test out. So once you have your shop all set up, we move on to step number 2, which is setting up your listings. One of the most important things with Etsy is SEO, which is search engine optimization, which is just basically how to get Etsy to see your listings and for the consumers to see your listings. So you want to use keywords in your title, your description, and also the tags. And essentially with these words, you want to think in the mind of the buyer. So for my listing that's doing the best, the title for it is I love you wall prints, digital download print, retro wall decor, large printable art, downloadable prints. So obviously aesthetically the title it kind of looks spammy or whatever, but it's good to hit all those keywords and you just want to think in the mind of a buyer. So what would the buyer be searching for if they wanted my product? And then with the description, you also want to be as descriptive as you possibly can and list out every little detail you possibly could about this product, because it will help the users to decide whether they want this product or not and get a lot of clarity and transparency from you as to like what the product entails. So I usually start with a little description explaining what it is, what kind of space it would work in, and then I list off what you will receive for this product and then just other like logistic things, and then I link my socials at the bottom of the description. And then for tags, for this one, cute print, wall decor, trendy print, wall art, things like that, things that people will be searching for. I think the most important thing is just to think like the buyer, like what would I be searching for if I wanted this print? The next step for setting up your listings is if this is a digital product of some sort, I think it's extremely important to pick the right mockups. So I would recommend doing like extensive searches on your mockups, finding something that doesn't really look like a mockup necessarily and looks more genuine and believable, like warm and homey is always good. Here is an example of a mockup that kind of looks very generic, like you'd find it on the top of like Google Pages and it looks like a mockup maybe tons of people would use. That I don't think will perform as well as something like this, where this gives you kind of the vibe of like how this print would be experienced and enjoyed in a certain space. Creative Market is a great place for mockups. Etsy is actually a great place for mockups as well. Funnily enough, I would never think to find mockups on Etsy, but Etsy has some great mockups. Behance also has some great mockups. So I would look to those places for mockups because you may find some more unique ones there versus like just kind of the top of the Google search, like free mockups. And I definitely think it's worth paying for mockups in the long run because they're just always a little bit nicer. Another thing you can do is to actually just shoot your product and not use mockups. I think shooting the prints will make it like, or whatever your product is, I'm kind of hyper focusing on these digital prints, but whatever your product is, if it is digital, you can always just print it out and actually shoot it because then it's very believable. And then if you do that, you can also upload videos to Etsy, which I highly recommend uploading videos if you can, because videos will get you even more engagement because consumers typically like to see the product from many different angles and in different lighting. And it's just like the same thing if you're shopping with clothes. I know I always watch the videos because I want to see how it moves on the body and things like that. And that's the same with prints or any other product for that matter. It's just always better to have a video to get better engagement, and the buyer will be more likely to buy it if they see a video. And then lastly, with prepping your listing, I would say just provide as many different angles as you can. This again just helps the buyer to make their decision and go, yep, this is what I want. This looks really great. I've seen all the different angles and this is what I want. So the last step is developing the product itself. I guess this would actually be the first step, but what are you offering to consumers that others on Etsy aren't? So I think if anything, this is like the most important step because this is what the consumer is actually buying. I think it's good to do a bit of a survey on Etsy and see what is out there in your kind of field and make sure that yours is niche enough and is something unique to Etsy and that people will actually buy. Because for example, if you search digital prints, a really common one on Etsy is those Matisse prints. They're like all over the place and they're super cute, but I think that those shops are already doing so well. So the odds of you doing as well as them or better than them are very slim because there's already so much competition. Whereas if you use your own style and let your own style shine, then people are going to be more interested in that because it's quite unique. Having something unique will also help to stand out from the crowd just in terms of the feed. So I think the number one thing and the number one takeaway I can say is just make your product unique. I know it's probably common knowledge, but it's so important to make it unique. It's just going to be such a challenge if you are creating something that you've kind of seen before or like an aesthetic that you've seen before. And it does take time to develop a unique style, but I think it's incredibly important to do that on Etsy so that you can grow. The next step I think is maybe a bit controversial potentially, but it is to make your product a bargain. So consumers want something cheap, cute, fast, so you're gonna do that for them. So don't make it so cheap, obviously, to where you're not valuing yourself as a creative, but I do think it's important to kind of, be a little cheaper, I guess. So I kind of gauged like a middle ground of what people were pricing their digital prints, and then I kind of set that as my price. Because it is passive as well, there's not like labor going into each one of them, so I don't take into account like giving myself hourly pay or anything like that because it's just passive income once I've designed it. So I think mine are priced at about, I think they're like $6 or $7 US, which I think like most artists may like cringe at initially because it's quite cheap and you're like, oh, why are you selling your work and like not valuing your work as an artist and just like mass producing like digital prints as well. A lot of artists like would frown on digital prints because you're just mass like giving out these files to people. You're not even printing it yourself. But I think at the end of the day, if you want to make sales on Etsy, you have to make it cheap and you have to make it easy for them. So that leads me on to my third point, which is convenience. As I said, buyers want something that's convenient, and digital prints are extremely convenient. So they can buy it, print it, have it up on their wall all in the same day. It's just extremely convenient, extremely affordable, and it's a unique piece of artwork that's hanging up in their space. I think the appeal to digital prints for me as well is that I love the idea that anyone can just buy my print from all over the world and enjoy it for like a really affordable price and just keep it in their space. And I just love the idea of that. My last piece of advice is to just have patience. Sometimes it takes a while for your shop to grow and pick up. As I said earlier, my prints took like a month or two where they didn't really get much engagement at all, and then suddenly they just skyrocketed. So just be patient, test out different things, keep making new listings, updating your listings, and eventually it will all fall into place. That's all I have for advice. If you enjoyed this video, as I mentioned earlier, I would love for you to subscribe. I'm hoping to be making some more like YouTube content soon. I've kind of been a little bit MIA, but I'm moving soon and I want to be making lots more content on here. So definitely subscribe. If you guys have any tips on like growing your Etsy, I'd love for you to share them in the comments for other people as well, because as I said, I am still new to this and I'd love to hear your guys' advice as well if you have an Etsy shop. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!